everyone out there in the world of YouTube or wherever it is you're checking out this video. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Jacqueline Anderson. Today I'm interviewing Miss Adrienne Davis. She is a certified public accountant who has agreed to share her CPA exam experience and tell us how she's using her credentials in her professional life. So I'll kick off this interview with the first question, as I always do. You probably noticed from previous interviews, and that question is, what is your name? What's printed on your birth certificate?
Adrienne Nicole Davis is my name. I go by Dree with my close friends, but normally in the professional space, I go by Adrienne. Yeah.
Okay. So where are you from?
So I'm from Fort Washington, Maryland, which is a city in Prince George's County, Maryland, and it's right outside of Washington, D.C., about 10 minutes or so from the D.C. border. And I grew up there, lived there for about 21 years of my life, basically my whole life. So until I moved to Atlanta.
Gosh, okay. So what age or in what year was it that you became a CPA? And what state were you initially licensed?
Ooh, okay. Let me think. I was licensed 3 years ago in 2017, and I'm 28 now. So that's 24. I was 24, or I might have been 25 because it was after my birthday. So I'll just go ahead and say 25 years old.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks. I'm thinking, oh, is my math off? So sorry for anybody watching if you're like, that 28 minus 3 is not 24. So you know what? 24, 25, yeah.
So that's a great accomplishment. So do you know your state issued ID number?
Yes, so Georgia CPA 0350420.
All right, congratulations. Okay, that's still fairly new 3 years ago. So
yeah.
I know that's probably still on top of your mind. Right there, you can recite it. Okay, so you mentioned moving here to Atlanta. So where do you currently live now?
So yes, so I live in Atlanta, the Buckhead area, and I moved to Atlanta in 2014, and I've been here ever since. So I've been in the same place. So I love where I live. I love Atlanta. So.
Gotcha. Okay, so what college or university did you attend?
So I went to Howard University for both undergrad and grad school.
Gotcha. So what degree did you get?
And I had I have a bachelor's of business administration and accounting, and then I have a master's of business administration with a concentration in accounting.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you think you will continue on pursuing other degrees, or now that you've obtained the CPA, are you done with school?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You will not catch me in another school. No. I think we'll talk about this a little later, but I thought I wanted to do a career change to become a lawyer or something and go to law school, but that, okay. Yeah, but no. I decided that's probably not for me. And then I guess another career track accountants might do is get their PhD, but I'm not really interested in becoming a professor at this time or doing the research. So yes.
Okay. So in your current job, do you work in industry like corporate America, government, public accounting, or are you an entrepreneur? Or at some point, do you think you may transition over to the academic setting?
Okay, so I currently work for a public accounting firm. Okay. This is my 4th public accounting firm. So apparently I love it. And I'm actually transitioning careers, and I'll be transitioning to become an entrepreneur working at a Fortune 1. The way their thing is set up is I'll be an entrepreneur working under the Fortune 100 company.
So. Well, congratulations on that as well.
Thank you.
Well, I guess for the purposes of this conversation, you may just draw on the position you're in currently as in public accounting, but if there's anything you want to share in your future endeavors, please share that with us. But what are you currently doing in public accounting? What type of accounting are you doing in that position?
Okay, so, and also I could start naming the firms that I've worked at too. I don't know why I'm being so coy, but because I'll normally say that, but I started off at PwC in Virginia, and then I went to Deloitte in Virginia, and then after summer there, I had an internship with Deloitte in Atlanta, then I started full-time with Deloitte in Atlanta, but between my internship and full-time with Deloitte, I had another internship with school at BDO in Virginia, and now I'm at Moore Colson in Atlanta. And so when I was at PwC, I had an internal firm services internship. Then once I went to Deloitte, I had a rotational internship where I did tax and audit, and I decided I liked tax more. So once I moved down to Atlanta for my internship, I did solely tax, and then I started full time with tax, business tax services. So luckily, I wasn't too specialized because if people know Big Four, you could work in international tax, sales and use tax,
Mhm.
things that you might not see at normal companies, only these huge companies that Deloitte's doing the work for. And then I decided I wanted to be more well-rounded. So at my firm now, Moore Colson, I work in tax as well, but I wanted to engage with individuals. So I do individuals, S corporations, partnerships, C corporations. I've worked on trusts. I did a split interest trust literally yesterday, estates, nonprofits. So we do it all.
That is a great like book of work. I would say a lot of experience you've gotten in a relatively short time. Well, let's back up to the internships, especially for those who may be starting out on the CPA journey. How did you secure an internship with a Big Four?
Okay, so
What was that experience like? Do you think that was relatively easy, or was it luck, or did you have some connections? How did you
connect
even start?
connections because of Howard. I will admit, when I went to school, I didn't really know too much. I think my major was supposed to be finance,
Mhm.
and my dad's actually an accountant. So disclaimer. So I already had a little bit of background growing up,
Okay.
and my parents encouraged me to switch to accounting instead of finance, just because of I graduated from high school in 2009. So if you think about it, that's like right when the recession was, and
Mhm.
Wall Street had collapsed basically. So my dad said, "Hey, you want to go into accounting because of the job security?" And growing up, my favorite subject in school was math to begin with. So it was a seamless transition. Once I got to Howard, they have something called the 21st Century Advantage Program, 21 CAP, as an abbreviation. And they place every incoming student into a group or a team, and each team has a corporate sponsor. And my corporate sponsor was PwC because I was an accounting major. So they tried to put all the accounting majors. And then we had some other people, but a lot of accounting majors were on this team. And from there, we were able to build a relationship with the employees. So we had a close relationship with the recruiter.
Mhm.
HR would come in, we met partners, we met employees. So once it was time for them to open up, so PwC, their internship that I did called the Semester of Discovery Internship Program, which I think it has another name now, it is for minority students in order to just get acclimated to corporate America. So once they opened up the application process, they encouraged us to apply. Of course, they looked at our GPA and our accomplishments in the short time that we were at school. This was the summer after I had that internship, the summer after my sophomore year. So I had about 2 years of college extracurricular activities, 2 years of GPA that they could look at. And so that's basically, and then I had to interview. So Howard has a lot of career building exercises, activities. So we'll go in and have a career fair and drop your resume if someone wants to contact you back. But I also knew the recruiter, so I had an interview, and the recruiter could tell you what you need to do in order to succeed in the interview. We're having interview prep before we go. They're looking at our resumes. So basically, luck, I guess, from um, the point of, oh, I ended up on the PwC team, but also the connections for sure. That's how I got involved. And when I ended up taking the internship, most of the students in the McLean, Virginia office were from Howard. And then you also had um, some students from Hampton. And then I met a guy from Morehouse. And then I think there was one other Black girl. She went to a PWI, but not in the DC area. And then you had some people from University of Maryland who were there. But it really made me realize that companies who want to look for Black people to work for them should go to HBCUs, honestly. So
into that talent. But it sounds like you got plugged in early on in college.
yes.
Started building relationships.
Yes. And I think it was an expectation. So I never knew I was doing something so far-fetched. I think I was also in the honors program at Howard, so the School of Business Executive Leadership Honors Program. So some of my peers had internships after freshman year, and I was working at a swimming pool. So I said, when I got back to school sophomore year, I need to step it up so that I'm not sitting here in my parents' basement. Basement. Basically, I need to figure out what I can do so that I can have the same internships and opportunities they have. Because some people were interning on Wall Street after freshman year, and everyone had that lit summer in New York. And I said, oh, that needs to be me. So that was kind of my motivation.
Yeah, that makes a difference, the exposure and the opportunities. So you had those advantages going to Howard, which some people don't, which makes a big difference. And we can see, especially in your career.
Mm-hmm. And I would say so because I think it was always the expectation you get an internship after your junior year because you're trying to set up a full-time job for after your senior year. But at Howard, they expected you to have an internship after every single year. So they're like, okay, the high performers are getting internships after freshman year, but everybody should have one after sophomore year because there are just too many internships out here to go around. And I found that to be the case because most people I knew were interning after sophomore year, definitely junior year. And most people I knew coming from the School of Business had full-time offers going into the real world. And most people had their full-time offers by October of our senior year.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's good to know. I might follow up on that toward the end of the interview to answer your question. But I'll move along to the CPA exam experience. So what review course or package did you use and why? What factored into that? Was the price, the reputation, or was it just a matter of convenience?
So I used Becker, and that's because I started with Deloitte and they use Becker for everyone. I think it's pretty expensive, but they paid for it. So if it's free, yes, they pay for it in full. I think it's pretty expensive, though. I didn't realize how expensive.
Years ago, it was around $5,000. I'm not sure what it is now for the full package, like the review, intensive review on top of the courses and flashcards or whatever else they'll offer now. But
all that.
This could be a car.
Yeah, and I guess Becker's known as the best CPA review program. So I was just blessed to be able to have the best one, have it paid for, and I did end up eventually passing with Becker, but we'll talk about that a little
bit. Were there any conditions on it surrounding it being free, or any requirement that any portion paid back if some condition wasn't met, or if you didn't pass the actual exam or be licensed within a certain amount of time?
No, they didn't have a condition as far as licensing or passing it, but I'm pretty sure if you left the firm within a certain amount of time after you started, that you probably had to pay some of it back, but I'm not too sure. But no, I never passed the exam while I was at Deloitte, actually, and I never was required to pay back any money.
Gotcha. So how long was your overall journey? So when you started taking the test and actually, I guess, when you passed the last one, because I do know there's a process to actually submit paperwork to be licensed.
Yeah, and luckily I have a good memory, and it was not that long ago. So I started in May of 2014. That's when I took my first exam. Mm-hmm. And I passed my last exam in May of 2017, but I did not find out until August of 2017 that I had passed, and I don't think I got licensed until like October, just because I had to get all my paperwork together and wait for Georgia to meet and actually grant me my license.
All right, well, congratulations. So it was over a 3-year process.
Yes, yes.
Well, since it's not that long ago, do you remember how many times you took various sections?
definitely took each section more than once. I don't remember, and I deleted all of my notice of schedules and all that stuff. Once I passed, I deleted all of that stuff. I said, no, I don't want to see this ever again in my life. But I remember I took audit first and I passed that one. So I was like, yeah, I'm on a roll. I'm going to kill it. And then I moved to Atlanta and decided that partying was more important than my career. So I guess. And so I stopped studying and, well, I was working, but I stopped studying for it seriously. So I think I started to pick it back up in July, August of 2015. And I think that's when my audit was probably about to expire. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to knock these 3 exams out before audit expires. That didn't happen. I think I took reg because I was in tax. I said, let's take reg and see what happens. Then I failed. And I said, okay, well, let's take BC and see what happens. All right, took it, failed. All right, well, I'm not starting FAR, but let's go back to reg. And
Okay.
I think I failed that again. And so one of my former coworkers at Deloitte, she said, hey, I'm studying for my CPA exam. Let's study together. And I said, okay, cool. So I said, I'm studying for BC now. And I remember I was about to take it that weekend and she said, are you ready for it? And I said, I don't really know. I don't think so. She said, push it back. I said, okay, I'll do that. And so I pushed it back, but I had actually really been studying for it this time because the key thing is discipline and knowing if you were actually putting in the work. And I was putting in the work this time because I was going to the library and actively studying instead of going to Starbucks and then browsing Twitter and then going home and say, yeah, that's a great study day.
Right.
So I pushed it back and then I took the exam, but I did not check to see if I passed when the results came back. After I got home, I said, I'm just going to start studying for reg. And I took reg 4th of July. And once I got home from that exam, that's when I decided to check my BEC results. And I passed. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Like I finally passed an exam because that was the first exam I had passed. And that was July 2016. That was the first exam I had passed in 2 years. So, yes, I was super excited. I said, yeah, I can start studying for audit now. So I started studying for audit and so July and busy season started back up again in August, September. So I said, I have a few weeks. I can knock audit out real quick and then I can revisit FAR after busy season. But basically 2016, I'm going to be done with my exams. You can't tell me a thing. And that's not what happened. So my Achilles heel was I like to travel. So I decided to book a vacation in the middle of July.
Really?
Yes, for a week. And I was like, yeah, I'll study on the plane and then I'll study extra before I leave and extra before I go. That did not happen. So and then busy season started earlier than what I expected because the clients got the financials in. So they're like, yeah, we'll see y'all 6 days a week. And I was like, oh, I was supposed to study in the evenings on weekends. So basically, I failed. So I failed audit. I think that was the second. So that was the second time I had taken audit, but the first time I passed it. So I was like, oh, how bad could it be? But no, I failed that. So went back to busy season. And after that, I said, okay, it's time to revisit audit. So I took it a little bit more seriously and started studying. I remember I took it right before Thanksgiving. And then, yeah, I took a week off of work and I just studied basically like Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, maybe took it on Wednesday. I mean, that was my review. I had been studying, but I said, I'm going to just review, not work, just do this for 5 days. So after that, I said, okay, it's time to start FAR. And then I started studying for FAR. I think December is pretty slow, so I took off 3 weeks from work just because I'm not sure if people know, but Big Four, you get a whole bunch of leave. So you get like 5 weeks of leave of vacation a year. and then enroll. Yeah, you do. So I ended up doing that, studying, but again, vacation. So I decided to book a trip to Cuba and I booked a trip to Houston. And I said the same thing, like I'll study on the plane. Did not study on the plane. So I got back and I was stressed because FAR has 10 chapters and I was trying to hurry up and finish studying for FAR. Well, I was trying to finish reading stuff so I could review, and I was going to take the exam beginning of January. But so I took it and failed. And I remember I was at work when I found out, and I started crying because I was just like, okay, you have one more, you're not going to be able to do it. But I mean, in hindsight, girl, you were traveling, you weren't studying, you weren't serious. So thinking forward, so we had another busy season, and I think my audit was no, my was my no, I don't think my BC was about to expire, but so you're probably thinking 3 years. Becker doesn't last that long. It does not. I was using a coworker's login, and then I used my brother's login because he's also an accountant. So his login for Becker was about to expire, and I think they were changing the exam. So there were a lot of factors that were going in to it, and I said, okay, well, I need to get this done. I need to figure out FAR, but I don't know how I'm going to be able to do it because it's going to be busy season. And then I'm just not going to have time to do it before whatever ticking time bomb I had. So I decided to quit my job, and I did not have another job. I just put in my notice, said, hey, after busy season, I'll be out of here. So I put in like a month notice. Then once I finished, so March 15th was my last day. So I went back to visit my parents for a couple of weeks. And then April 1st, I started studying. And I studied for FAR for 2 months, and I took it around Memorial Day weekend. And this was when they were changing the exam. So they did not give me my results until August. So the whole summer I spent not knowing if I passed FAR or not. But I studied for 2 months, and I was dedicated. I cut off social media. I obviously had nothing else to do but study. I wasn't working. So ended up being the best decision for me.
So what section out of all of them did you find the most difficult?
I'll just say FAR because, well, that's the general consensus. But I know I was not really that great at the whole journal entry stuff. And that's something I really had to iron down. When I remember when I was studying before, if there was a concept I didn't really understand, I just said, oh, well, I probably won't see this on the exam. And then you go to the exam and it will be a simulation. So you're
right. The very thing that you blow off is what you're going to see over and over and over, right? It's like, how does this system go there?
Yeah. So I had to, so anytime I had an issue with something, I took the time to make sure that I understood it. So I would say, and then FAR is just the volume. It's a lot of volume. So 10 chapters runs the gamut. I took BEC when they had the essay part. So I remember trying to figure that out. Reg and business law were not bad at all because I do tax and business law. I loved it in college. So that me not passing was just a lack of discipline, honestly.
I think so. If you could trace it back, was it traveling?
Traveling, partying, not studying. Yeah.
Gotcha. Although some of that was self-imposed, was there anything just out of the blue that caught you off guard? Things that happen in life unexpectedly that may have contributed to you not passing or not devoting the time you needed to?
No, I would say no. Like, I was blessed to not have anything like that happen to me because I know sometimes people do, and it's hard to focus on that when you might have external factors going on. But luckily, I didn't have that going on. It was just me being selfish and foolish.
Gotcha. Let's see. Was the review course, with it being free, did that factor into you deciding, yes, I definitely want to pursue the CPA designation? Or at what point did you decide, okay, this is definitely where I want to take my accounting career?
I think it was already something that was an expectation just because of my dad. He has this thing called the blueprint. We always laugh about it because he's foolish, but it's real. He said, as long as you, as a Black person, as long as you have your degree, your CPA, and you work for a Big Four, he's like, they can't tell you no. So that's kind of how I've operated. So I had 2 out of the 3, and so I knew the next step was to get my CPA. And also working at Deloitte around a lot of CPAs, you can't get to the next level at Deloitte. You can't become a manager if you're not a CPA. So it's very much ingrained in the culture that you're expected to have it. And when you have your reviews, they're asking you, so what's your CPA status?
Mm-hmm.
And I was feeling inadequate because I didn't have it. A lot of my coworkers who had come in 1-2 years after me had passed the exams, and here I am, a senior. I'm in charge of them, but I don't have my CPA. So it was definitely something that I was insecure about.
Gotcha. Well, what about the testing fees? I know you mentioned you had moved on from Deloitte, who had paid for your initial study materials. Were your testing fees reimbursed, or did you pay out of pocket?
Yes. So Deloitte, so you're required to pay out of pocket for your testing fees, and they'll reimburse you for only 4 sections after you pass. So that's another reason why I wanted to stay at Deloitte, so that they could reimburse me at least. I get maybe like $1,000 back. But then at that point, I felt like my mental health was more important than getting the money back. But no, I was so frivolous with my money. And I guess I might speak to privilege, because you're like, what do you mean? But I would just pay for the notice of schedule, pay for the exam part, and not do a great job of studying. So, I mean, that just speaks to maybe being spoiled or privileged. And I know we spoke about this a little bit, but the Black experience, sometimes not having the resources. But for me, I have a safety net in my parents. So I knew that if I really needed some money, they could come through for me. So they weren't paying for me to take the exam, but I knew that, okay, me spending $300, it was not that big. I mean, it was a big deal, but not big of enough of a deal for me to actually buckle down and start being
Right. So
serious.
if you came up short with something else, you had somebody you could rely on, maybe for rent or car note gas money. Even if you had spent the money on the exam fee, you had
Exactly.
somebody you could fall back on.
Yeah. So they weren't
Blessing.
paying. It is, and I want to be honest and candid about that, just because my experience is different. Because someone who may not have the same safety net, they're like, I'm not failing an exam. I don't have money to spend. I don't have that much. I'm not spending $3,000 on top of this just to keep failing. You're like, no, I'm going to get it. And also, Deloitte offered a bonus if you pass within the first year, that you would get like $5,000. So people were like, I'm absolutely getting $5,000. And I was like, yeah, that would be cute, but it's not.
What'd you say? You going to Cuba, or where'd you go on your vacation?
Oh,
Cancun, wherever you go.
see, look, I was paying for test exam fees, and I was paying for vacation. So obviously something was not right.
Priorities.
Yeah.
So now looking back, what study tips or advice can you give for CPA candidates?
Yes. To be disciplined and really take a good look and assessment of your study habits. So for me, I know that I'm the type of person, I need to watch the lecture while reading the book, then read the book, then do the practice exams. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm not trying my hardest. I'm not doing my best. As well as, I need to cut off social media. I need to limit my social interaction. I can't go to every party. I can't go out to brunch. I need to focus on my goals. So, and I'm struggling with that now, even because for my new career, I have to take exams, and it's I'm so grateful that I had the CPA exam experience, but now I have to really take a good look at myself and think, are you really being serious about your studying? Like, you have a lot of things to juggle, yes, but are you prioritizing? So the biggest thing I learned was the whole travel thing. So I think I had to say no to a trip this weekend, because I said, no, I need to study. And I know traveling is my Achilles heel when it comes to being productive and studying. So definitely being disciplined and finding out what works for you as far as studying. Those are the biggest things. And also, working out for me was very pivotal. I feel so much more confident after a good workout, and I had to, and it's a stress release. So, yes, I do fitness, but a lot of times it's for my mental health, and my brain might feel foggy if I haven't worked out. And that's why, and even during quarantine or the pandemic, I've upped my workouts to 6 days a week just because of how stressful everything is right now, and I need a release. So for me personally, working out, limiting my drinking. I wouldn't drink and then try to study. I know, it sounds like who would do that, but you'll be surprised that there were times where I would go to brunch and say, okay, let me go home and study. What are you retaining? You're not retaining a thing. So
So
yeah,
prioritizing and managing stress levels.
yes.
Two most
Thanks for
important
summing that
things.
up for me.
But thanks for being transparent. So and
Yes.
explaining it so we can visualize what's that like a lot, because a lot of us do that. Go to happy hour, hang out after work, knowing you need to put in a couple of hours minimum of studying, but you come in exhausted and just on the couch and you wake up, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. So
Exactly. I would say the biggest thing is wake up in the morning and knock out your studying, and then tell somebody, hey, let's go out in the evening, because then you don't have to have that cloud hanging over your head. Oh, I should have been studying. Just knock it out, and then you can control all the variables from there.
for the rest of the day, right?
Yeah.
So if you're listening out there, try to get it in early at the top of the day.
Yes. Yes.
Gotcha. Well, transitioning to your career professional life, I know you said you are going to make a change, but where you currently working or when you moved, having a CPA, did that mean there was going to be an immediate promotion or advancement where you could be a manager?
I wish, but
You was
no.
good for?
It was not. I just felt more confident that I had it, but it really didn't mean anything. Oh, you know what else? I could call the IRS if they needed me to call the IRS, because you have to have a CPA license in order to well, you don't have to be on the power of attorney for our clients.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the CPA certification, so I could hop on the phone with the IRS and talk to them. So
Gosh, okay. So in your current position, do you think you're actually utilizing your CPA credentials besides hopping on the phone with the IRS?
uh yes and no. Just because public accounting, yes, I'm definitely using my CPA, but it's not a requirement in order to have the role that I have. It's a requirement to get to the manager level. So, and I'm not at the manager level.
So what the level you are at, do you think your salary is in line with industry standards or your overall compensation package?
Yes. I actually think by moving to a smaller firm, and that's another thing, when I started and I tried to negotiate, I had, they gave me the offer, and literally maybe a couple of days after I got the offer, I found out I had passed the CPA. So I came back to them. I said, I want more money because I have passed the CPA. And they were like, we'll reconsider it when the next review, like basically after a year. So, but I wasn't really in a position to negotiate because I was unemployed. So after, okay, yeah, let me go backtrack. So after I took the exam Memorial Day bar, I did a sabbatical during the summer, and I lived in Asia. So I came back to the States in
A vacation or a sabbatical?
it was a vacation. Sabbatical was like eat, pray, love. What was I doing? Going to the beach, getting massages, and yeah. And the reason why I did that is I thought I might have wanted to do a career change, but I wanted to pass my CPA exam. So I had been saving up my money so that I could do that. And then I ended up saving my money and just quitting and traveling. So when I got back to the States in August, I linked up with some recruiters and I found out about the job I have now. And so my whole negotiation, I was really not in a place to negotiate. My mom was just like, girl,
Get a job.
get a job, get a job. And I was like, but luckily it ended up working out. So it's not like, oh, I got a job and it's like, oh, a year later I was out the door. I stayed there. My 3-year anniversary would be coming up at the end of the month. So I've really learned a lot there.
Well, that's good. Well, at the beginning of this interview, you mentioned your dad being in accounting. Is he a CPA?
Yes, he is a CPA. So, and that's another thing we used to joke about. Well, my dad likes to remind me. He told me that I would say, "Well, Dad, if you could do it, I could do it." So, and I was like, "Yeah, Dad, I've seen your grades." He went to Howard too, so I mean, it just seems like I'm following in his footsteps. But my brother also went to Howard and did accounting, and so now we're trying to get him to get his CPA. But he started his career with KPMG actually in Houston. Yeah,
Gotcha. A rival firm, huh? Okay.
yeah. So, but
So
yes,
go ahead.
I was gonna say he took it when the CPA exam was like the bar exam. So 2 days you had to pass them all at the same time.
So
And
does he hang that over your head back when it was the number two pencils and locked in a room
like, you have it so easy now. What do you mean? You only have to take one part. And I'm
at a
like,
time, right? So growing up, was he exposing you to the accounting profession and talking or whispering in your ear to follow in his footsteps?
um, I remember my parents were really open about finances. So that's the number one thing. Oh, and so me moving into this role as a financial advisor, that's another thing I realized is my parents are kind of unicorns for that because a lot of people's parents didn't talk to them about finances. So I knew when they sold the house how much they were selling it for. I knew how much they were buying the new house for. I knew what their salaries were when I was growing up. They would show me Black Enterprise articles. Even when I go home now, my dad shows me Wall Street Journal articles, and we'll send each other like Business Journal, Washington Business Journal articles, just talk about things that are happening in the financial world and the news. So I grew up being very comfortable talking about money. So that's kind of merged over to career where it wasn't that far fetched. I remember I used to go to his job. So his career, he's a consultant now, but he grew up, when I was growing up, he was the CFO of a hospital group. So he worked in healthcare finance, and I would go to his job. My parents let me know what they were doing. Sometimes they would give me little side projects like I was an intern and say, like, hey, sign off on, well, not sign off on, but like, hey, go through and check this stuff off or see if you have this stuff. I just thought about this, and I haven't thought about this in years. When I was growing up, my mom used to every month go through her statements, and she would have her receipts, and we used to go through and make sure that we crossed off all the receipts to make sure that everything that she was being billed for, she actually spent, and looking for any discrepancies, were there any charges there that shouldn't have been, or was there anything that should have been charged that wasn't? So I mean, I just remember sitting at the dining room table and doing that. And basically, she was teaching me how to budget and manage my checkbook, which without her explicitly saying that's what I was
So y'all are reconciling checking account and credit card
doing. Yeah.
bills at a young age. She exposed you to that. Well, we mentioned your daddy a couple of times. What career is your mother in?
Okay. So my mom, she's actually a scientist. She works for the U.S. government as a patent examiner. So when people have different pharmaceuticals they want to have a patent for, she goes through and sees if it's feasible and if it can go to market, basically. So I knew I didn't want to do science. I hated science in school. So that was never an option for me.
Well, we definitely didn't want to not mention her just in case she watches this video.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Parents seem to be great support system. You
they
mentioned
are.
your brother. Do you just have one sibling?
Yes, I only have one sibling, my brother, and he's 18 months younger than me.
Oh, so
So,
you're right there together.
yeah.
I know your daddy is proud though if y'all, if y'all
Yeah.
going through that session.
Yeah.
So would you say he's been your mentor, or did you actually have someone in the workplace or in college that you stayed in contact with that you would say is a mentor?
I would say my dad is my mentor. Even a unique story when I was going through the not the onboarding process, but the job search for my current role. So with Northwestern Mutual, and I was going through that process while I was staying with my parents during the pandemic. So every time I had a call with them, I would decompress with my dad and talk about what I liked or didn't like, and basically what happened. He would give me advice, and I told the the recruiter, about all the stuff that my dad and I talked about in our relationship. So when it was time for my offer call, we did a video call like this, and they invited him to be on the call.
They had gotten to know your daddy in a sense through you.
Yeah, so it was awesome. It was awesome. I really felt like they valued me and my support system for my dad to be a mentor. And he asked some really insightful questions and wanted to make sure that I was stepping into an opportunity that was ideal for me.
Great. Would you say that's been the same for your peers as you were going through college? Where they had a parent household and had a safety net? Or some of the people in your circle, you could see a total different lack of support?
I would say that most people came from at Howard, most of my friends came from a 2-parent household. And I don't know if that was specific to me I'm specifically talking about the honors program, but that's something that we've talked about. Like, wow, we're in this group chat and all of our parents are still married, and there are like 10 of us in here. That's unheard of.
Right.
So
if they were ever married, not throw that out there.
Right. So thinking about that, I think it speaks to us being in the honors program. So we really value our education. Our parents probably pushed us to apply for the honors program. I know my mom did. She was like, "Girl, you better sign up for this." So I was like, "I'm just trying to coast through college." She's like, "No, that absolutely not." So my mom was the one who was like, "Sign up for this." And I was like, okay. And as far as having a support system, I remember a lot of us did have safety nets, because we would kind of joke, like, a lot of the women at Howard had cars and a lot of the men didn't. And it's just because our dads were so protective over us. I know for me personally, my dad wanted me to have a car because he never wanted me to be in a situation that I couldn't get out of. So just speaking about that, safety, it was more of a safety thing for me to have a car than it was like a spoiled thing, because my parents didn't even let me get my license until I was in college. So I wasn't like the spoiled sweet 16 type of kid. And thinking about like a lot of my female friends, they did have cars, but I do know, I know, so in the honors program, most of us had scholarships to Howard. I had a full tuition scholarship to Howard.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Wow. And my brother actually had the same scholarship. So my parents were like, excellent. But at the same time, room and board still costs about $10,000 a year. So speaking of a place of privilege, I had friends who still had to take out student loans because their parents couldn't pay the $10,000 for the room and board. But I went to private school, so my parents were like, "Oh, this is a discount compared to what we were paying before." And then having that privilege, going out into the workforce. And I mean, I can't really think of anything specific at the top of my head, but I have investment accounts, and some of my friends don't. And it's that just because my parents told me to do that. And but some people might have parents who aren't that financially literate, so that could be passed on. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Because you are from the DC area, right? But you lived on campus at Howard.
And that's another privilege, huh? Because you would think like, oh, I lived 30 minutes from Howard and I lived on campus for all 4 years. Like, some people might live on campus for freshman year and then move back home, because why are we throwing away this money? We just live at home. But I basically told my parents, I don't want to go to Howard if I don't want to go to Howard if I have to live at home. I said, that's not on part of the cards for me. I said, I'll go to Hampton if I have to live at home. They're like, okay, yeah, like, for sure you could live. So they allowed me to have my experience. Yeah, they allowed me to have my independence and have the college experience.
Gotcha. All righty. So, as you know, Black people or minorities are vastly underrepresented in the accounting profession, let alone be a CPA. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because
And maybe you can draw on some of your daddy's experiences if he shared some things over the years.
Um, I think that accounting is not as flashy of a profession as being a doctor or a lawyer.
Mhm.
So when you go to school, there are a lot of people who want to become, doctors and lawyers, and they don't really think about accounting. So I think that's one thing. So exposure. And then two, they might think it's too hard. So the only reason why I remember like, oh yeah, accounting's hard, but I can do it. I'm still able to get B's and B's. Yeah, I wasn't getting A's. So this is my major and I'm not even getting A's. The only thing that saved my grades were the other classes. But I remember most of my friends saying accounting is too hard. They were so glad to be done with the intro to accounting. So why is it that it's perceived as a difficult major, but finance isn't? I don't know. And then once you get into the workplace, um, there are so many different things that you can do with accounting. So you can become a staff accountant, you can do tax, you can work for public, you can work for industry. Um, what do I think the reason is that there aren't a lot of us? Because corporate America it's there aren't really. There are a lot of us, but not so. But I guess once you get to accounting, it's more specialized. Well, I'm all over the place. I really I really don't know, other than people not being exposed to it being a difficult major. And the corporate environment's not the most welcoming. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
In regards to passing the exam, what do you think can be done to help us or more of us pass the exam, increase the pass rates on the
Well,
various sections?
so I had to sit down with some people who are interested in passing the exam. They're college students or just out of college, maybe in their master's program, and their goal is to pass the CPA exam. The biggest hurdle I've seen is getting the study material. So we're like, all right, yeah, let's start. Like, let's do it. We have a schedule. Let's start studying. They're like, well, one person has Becker and only they can use it, and we're not about to spend the money to pay for Becker.
Okay, so the price.
So the price, yeah, like asking them to shell out $5,000 for Becker, it's unheard of. And that's the thing. If I really needed to pass a CPA exam and my brother's expired, I could have and I had one exam left, I could have said, hey, Dad, can you shell out the money for this one part for me? Or can you give me an interest-free loan to pay for it? And that would have been fine. And a lot of people don't have that privilege to do that. So,
It's truly an
no,
investment. It'll truly be a sacrifice and
yeah.
investment.
And that's another reason why I encourage Black students, to go to Big Four so that you could have your CPA paid for, so that you can have your study materials paid for. They'll reimburse you for the exams and they'll give you a bonus. This is how we need to be set up to advance. And then once you have Big Four on your resume and a CPA, like we talked about with the blueprint, you can't they can't deny how talented you are. They are not. You have your degree, you have your CPA, and Big Four.
Right. But that brings up a point you made early on about the exposure and the opportunities that you take advantage of early on in college. Right?
Yeah,
Will set you up years down the road, or you have to be thinking that far ahead. And a
yeah.
lot of times we don't.
And the only reason why I was thinking that far ahead was because of my parents. Because to be honest, I was just going through the motions and not knowing that I was doing something unique. They always had the expectation. And my parents went to college, so they had a certain amount of knowledge just because they went to college. They were both the first generation in their families to go to college. So my dad was the type of student where he remembered when he went to college at Howard, he was so embarrassed about how he spoke because he didn't realize that he didn't know correct English, because the dialect they spoke where he grew up. He said, I didn't know that was incorrect English, and feeling inadequate because he didn't have a lot of money and everybody seemed like they had a lot of money. So just speaking about that experience, and now my dad has kids who went to Howard, and then we're perceived as those kids where people like, wow, they seem like they have everything all figured out. Why do they know everything? And it only took one generation to get to this level. So hopefully once we do this, and then that's the thing, like people shouldn't be afraid to reach out and ask questions, but I think how welcoming are we as Black people in the workplace to other Black people? I know I try my hardest to be, but I was embarrassed to talk about my CPA journey, especially because so many people had passed and I felt inadequate. So I didn't want to talk to anyone about it. And also, how high up are we at Big Four? Do we have Black partners, Black senior managers who can mentor us and help us get to the next level and ask us what we need in order to advance? So those are probably the biggest things that I've seen.
Gosh, where you currently work, how many Black CPAs are there? Is it a lot, or could you just count 1, 2, 3? Or
Oh yeah, when I started, I was the only Black person in tax. And I think there are maybe 4 of us now, and they have a new person starting next week.
very limited.
Yeah, and Lamar, who you did an interview with, I met him at Moore Colson. So it's really limited, and then we have tax, audit, IT audit, consulting. So there are probably no more than 5 for professionals, client service, Black people, maybe 10 to 15 out of a firm of 150.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you also mentioned that you may be switching gears. So now, where you are in your career, what path are you on? Where do you see yourself next year and 5 years from now? What are your career aspirations?
Okay. So next year, I want to start building my clientele. I want to become a financial, a financial expert. I want to be known as a financial expert. So my 5-year goal is to build my book of business, be a media personality. I want to be on news segments. I want to hey, we're on CNN right now and you're interviewing me and this is what is going on. That's what I see for myself. I want to be published in Forbes. I want to be published in Black Enterprise. I want people
But don't
to
forget about us little people out here.
oh gosh, no. But I think that's something that I definitely want and am planning on working for. And, that's another reason why I was so excited that you reached out to me, just because I felt like this was a good opportunity to really have practice with interviewing and telling my story. And I'm not even talking about financial advice or tips, but just trying to be relatable. And I really, so that's my goal, to continue and be 2-year plan to get my CFP. I want to become a certified financial professional as well, just because who doesn't love certifications? Okay.
Keep adding to the back end of your name, right?
Okay, so you're going to say Adrienne Davis, enter my husband's last name, because we're going to add that in 5 years as well.
Okay.
So I'm just manifesting over here.
Look back on this video.
Right, and laugh like I'm a clown. So CPA, MBA, then we're going to add CFP behind there as well.
CFE, CFM.
Yeah. So everything, everything. Okay, exam me.
Right, because if you pass the CPA exam, the rest of them are a breeze, right?
Yeah, hopefully. I can only pray. So yeah.
So now that you have passed the CPA exam and you do have those 3 letters behind your name, what does it mean to you?
Ooh, it makes me feel that I can accomplish anything I can put my mind to. I was not depressed, but I was really in a dark space when I was trying to pass the exam. And my dad was definitely a resource. We talked every day. He helped me figure out my schedule. I would feel inadequate. I would want to quit. And when I finally passed, I was just ecstatic, because the goal I had worked towards for 3 years finally came to fruition.
That is great. Was there anything else you'd like to share with the audience? Any tips or career advice?
I just want to say my favorite phrase right now is always inhale, and I got this from Peloton, funny enough, but Alex Toussaint on there always says inhale confidence, exhale doubt. So whenever I am feeling any inadequacies, I just have to inhale the confidence, exhale all doubt.
Take a
And then
moment.
also knowing that, okay, you want to do it with me right now? All right.
All right, let's go.
All right, ready? Inhale confidence, exhale doubt. Okay, so remember that mantra. And when I'm sitting and taking exams, I'll do that. Anytime I'm feeling, oh my gosh, I don't know stuff, stuff. So also, life starts on the other side of your comfort zone. So I'm really nervous about taking this new risk, but I know what I'm capable of. I know I'm smart. I know I'm kind, courageous, professional, authentic, trustworthy, all the things that I want in an advisor. So I decided it's time to just take the leap and not let fear run me. And that's something that I'm constantly working towards, because it's not easy to get into that mindset. It's so easy to just stay in your comfort zone. Like for me, that would be staying at my public accounting job that I'm not super passionate about. I'm good at it. So, but I know there's more out there, and just having the ambition to look and see what else is out there.
Well, thank you, Adrienne, for sharing your experience and then ending the interview with showing us how to decompress and relieve stress, and breathing exercise, and then positive affirmations. So thank you very much for your time. And before we disconnect and conclude this interview, I would like to say to everyone, remember who you are and whose you are, and there's no time like the present.
Oh, I love that.